Hi friends, welcome back. Today we'll see UnRaid 7.3 upgrade. So firstly, we need to take a backup of the flash drive from the USB and then erase the existing cache and then remove the pool. So it asks for confirmation by typing cache and then clicking on proceed, it will remove the pool and system automatically shuts down and we need to enter the BIOS, enter the setup. In the advanced config, you need to go to trusted computing. There is security device support. Currently it is disabled. I would enable it. So before actually doing this exercise, we need to move any data from the cache drive to array by choosing the mover action cache to array. So here there is a secure boot option under the security. Currently it is disabled. I would enable it. So these are the two settings depending upon your BIOS version and the device. Uh, it would change, but in my device, it's these two options that we need to set up. And secure boot mode, I would choose custom, then go to boot. There are several options here. Option 1 is pointing to the USB drive. Option 2 is hard disk or eMMC with Debian. So I would keep that, but just to be on safer side, if you still want to access that particular option 2, then it is recommended to move that boot option to later numbers, something like 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, because it is highly likely that UnRaid will override that particular boot option number 2 with the internal boot. So here UnRaid is loading. It's verifying the busy modules. Now coming to the main tab, let us check for the upgrade. And here there is a 7.3.0 available, and you may wish to check the change log, what else has changed. So one important change with the 7.3 upgrade is having the internal boot and moving the TPM licensing. So it can be moved from regular USB licensing to TPM licensing. TPM licensing is the security encoding in the motherboard. Depending upon your device, you may have it or not. So you can still continue to keep the USB licensing. So upon upgrade, so it would choose the option to reboot the system to apply the update. Then we would be greeted with the new onboarding wizard that is available with the 7.3 option. So it says let's finish setting up UnRaid. And for those new to UnRaid, it would also give some installation guide. And I would choose next. And then there are some description of the server and time zone on the top, and then language. SSH access, I would keep it disabled. So I'm choosing the theme as black. And click next here. Here there are two options with the setup boot. For internal boot, I would choose the second option, use storage drives to boot UnRaid. And in the pool settings, there are two options, dedicated pool. Other one is boot plus data pool. So I would choose that option, and the data pool name is cache. So those who are having only 16 GB of drive for the total boot drive, then you can go for the first option and who are having larger drives, like in my case, it's like 400 GB plus, I would choose to keep some partition as data. So here I'm choosing for the boot reserved size as 16 GB, and then data pool name is cache. So update the BIOS boot order. So you may wish to uncheck it in case if you want to manually set up the boot order, but I would choose it. Only the risk is it might update the boot order option number 2. So if you have anything else on the option 2, then move it down. So here system identity and then configuration, it says your server is ready for installation. Once confirmed, you will move to the next steps to start using your storage and applications. So there are time zone, SSH access, theme, language, plugins which are selected that are installed, and then the boot configuration, the boot method, boot pool mode, pool, boot devices, in my case 2 numbers, and then boot results as 16 GB, and then update BIOS is yes, and devices selected. Click apply, and then you will see selected devices for the boot. Are you sure? Then it would apply the update. So in my case, I got these errors with internal boot setup returned with certain errors with some codes mentioned, but I didn't have to panic because it got updated upon rebooting. So you may wish to ignore that particular error at this point until it reboots, and then that will give another option to set up the internal boot upon login. So just next steps, it says internal boot timed out, but it is likely set up in your server, and the boot mode order update could not be applied automatically, but upon reboot it applied successfully. Let us see that as well. So upon rebooting, it says confirm reboot. Then please do not remove your UnRaid flash drive. So upon the reboot, it would copy the contents from the flash drive to the internal disk, and then makes the flash drive as blocked. So here UnRaid flash drive, here UnRaid internal boot, there are two options here, and I would choose the first one. It goes to default UnRaid OS, and it loads files into the RAM or memory, and then freshly the onboarding wizard is applied upon reboot, and it successfully configures internal boot. BIOS boot entry updates will be applied after the reboot successfully. Then setup is applied. Click on reboot here. Then system reboots. And then here we see that boot partition is created with 16 GB, slightly less than 16 GB size available. After I used, there is about 13 GB, and there are cache partition, 2 disks are shown. Here unassigned devices will have the flash drive, and there are certain other disks in my system which I'll be allotting to the pool uh, at the later stage. So now we need to stop the array just so that we can format the data pool. So after stopping the array, we can remove the historical or unassigned devices, some of them which are we wish. So here I am removing the 2 disks that are used for internal boot. Earlier they were in the unassigned devices mode, just to be able to show up for internal boot configuration. So here I would click on the cache for the data pool, and then enter comments as cache. choose the spin down delay as 30 minutes. Choose the file system type as GFS. Allocation profile is mirror. One VDAV of 2 devices. Compression is on. And remaining options I would just leave it as default. Click apply. Warning disk utilization threshold, I'm keeping it at 90%. Scrub schedule, I'm keeping monthly. As it is GFS, it removes any bit rot and it actually maintains the SSD well. So we see the GFS there, and then format unmountable disk. So now it is ready to format. Upon clicking format, it shows formatting there against the data pool. And now we have app data here. So from the array, we can copy back by choosing the mover action as array to cache. This way, all the data backed up will be moved back to app data in cache drive. So the Docker containers are any VMs in case if we have VMs, that data will be running faster and containers will be running faster. Now we'll move the TPM licensing. So choose under the tools. There is a registration page. So it would move the registration to TPM on motherboard. But if you get a license state mismatch, uh, I would not affect because normally when we log into our UnRaid account, it successfully